For 52 years, the official record said the Chicago Cardinals were the clean, undisputed champions of professional football in 1925. That's the story the National Football League printed in every record book it ever published. It isn't what happened. The league made sure you'd never learn that the real champions were stripped of their title in a closed-door meeting over a rule that had never once been enforced before that night. Here's who they erased: the Pottsville Maroons. A team from a small Pennsylvania coal town, players who worked mine shifts before practice. In December 1925, they beat the Cardinals head-to-head, 21-7, and stood alone atop the league standings. Sports writers called them champions. Fans called them champions. Then Pottsville did something ordinary. They played an exhibition game in Philadelphia against a squad of Notre Dame All-Stars, a game that drew 10,000 fans hungry to see football's biggest stars. That single decision became the excuse. 4 days later, NFL President Joe Carr suspended Pottsville from the league. Not for cheating, not for violence, for stepping onto Philadelphia soil, territory the league said belonged to another team, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. It was the first time that rule had ever been enforced against anyone. With Pottsville suspended, the Cardinals quietly scheduled 2 more games against depleted, overmatched opponents, padded their win total, and were handed the championship by a league vote. No trophy ceremony, no public explanation, just a new name in the record book and a coal town erased from it. But that's not the part they buried. The territorial rule Pottsville supposedly broke had been ignored for years, and it kept being ignored after. Other teams played outside their assigned cities constantly. Nobody suspended them. Nobody stripped a title. If the rule mattered so much that a champion lost everything over it, why did it vanish again by the following season? The obvious explanation that Pottsville simply broke league law doesn't survive contact with what everyone else was doing at the same time. Here's what was actually happening and who benefited from it. The Frankfurt Yellow Jackets weren't just a rival team. Their ownership sat on the same league committee deciding Pottsville's punishment. Philadelphia was one of the NFL's largest, most profitable markets in 1925, and Frankfurt held exclusive rights to it. When 10,000 fans packed a Philadelphia stadium to watch Pottsville play Notre Dame Stars, they weren't watching Frankfurt. They weren't paying Frankfurt's gate. The men voting on Pottsville's fate were the same men whose ticket revenue that exhibition game had just undercut. It wasn't a rules committee. It was a competitor sitting in judgment of its own rival, with a league president willing to hand them the ruling. For 52 years, that vote stayed buried inside league minutes nobody outside the room ever saw, filed away as a routine disciplinary matter instead of what it was, a business decision dressed up as justice. Pottsville's own petitions to reverse it were quietly declined, year after year, by the same organization that had a financial reason never to reopen the question. The record book doesn't say any of that. It just says Cardinals, 1925, champions. What it changed was permanent. Pottsville's players went to their graves without championship rings that, by every game played on the field, belonged to them. The town built its identity around an injustice nobody outside Pennsylvania ever learned about. Petitions were filed in the 1960s, filed again in the 2000s. In 2003, the league finally revisited the case formally and upheld the original decision, citing the precedent it would set for overturning historical results. Not because the facts had changed. Because reversing it, even 78 years later, still meant admitting a committee had ruled in its own financial interest and called it discipline. That's why you never heard about Pottsville. Correcting it would mean the NFL rewriting its own founding myth, and leagues don't do that voluntarily. So the record still reads Cardinals, 1925. The Maroons still aren't champions, not on paper, not in Canton. Somewhere in league archives, the minutes from that closed-door vote still exist, the actual reasoning, the actual voices in the room. Nobody has ever released them in full. So the question isn't really what happened in Pottsville. It's what else is sitting in a filing cabinet, marked routine, waiting for a town too small to make anyone answer for it.